Welcome to the Digital
Hi.
Download pop-up. Apparently there was a group decision made last week when I wasn't here that I'd be the editor, so I'm taking the plank. Very happy to be here.
Never miss a meeting.
I will not miss again. No, actually, thank you, Tim, for inviting me to be the editor today. I'm excited to talk about the future of work and some other things that are kind of a follow-up to one of our previous guests, Danielle Guzman. My name's Brentney Hutchinson. I'm the leader of digital transformation at Little Bird Marketing, and on Fridays we get together and just talk about digital content, share a piece that inspired us or something that we learned from. Hello,
Cool.
all. Can we start with Tim for intros?
Hi, yes, I'm Tim Hughes. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite. Thank you, Brentney, for inviting me today.
So Tim set a precedent. We need to wave through our entire intro.
Okay, go ahead, Adam.
Hi, I'm Adam Gray. I'm Tim's business partner and co-founder of DLA Ignite.
So we do see the same. We look, or the screen looks the same for everyone then, right? So
I think so, yeah.
okay, Eric.
Hi, I'm Eric from Crux Consultancy, and we are partnered with these lovely people here. This is our gang, and yeah, cool.
William.
Hi, I'm William Shorten. I have my own business, William Shorten Learning Solutions, and I'm a learning consultant. I'm a executive coach, and I also work with Tim and Adam at DLA Ignite.
Thank you. That social nerd. Scared. I'm scared.
Nick. I'm Nick, aka that social nerd, and I work with that fella over there with the glasses on.
Yeah, bend down. Bend down.
And last but not least, Rob.
Good morning. I'm Rob Durant. I am the founder of Flywheel Results, also a partner of DLA.
Ain't that cool?
This is cool. Exciting stuff. We have a surprise guest coming on too. Surprise. His name's Chris Nichols, and
Nice.
I will wait to say a little bit more about him, but he should be on.
When do you want me to bring Chris on, Brent?
8:15. I think he might pop in early.
Okay, he is actually he's in the green room, so we can keep him. I don't mind this.
I mean, we can go ahead and invite him in.
Shall we? He's
Yeah,
smiling
why
away.
not?
He's smiling away there. Shall we invite him in?
Come on in, Chris.
Hello, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Hi,
Nice
Chris.
to meet you.
Hey.
Hello.
That poor guy, poor Chris was like, I've got 10 minutes to make a cup of coffee and chill out, get some toast, get maybe a muffin on the go, but no, boom, straight in.
Yeah, I was going to make omelets, and Tim was like, "This is good." And so here I am. But
What kind of omelette? Walk us through your omelette of choice.
proteins, no veggies in my omelet. So I just throw any meats that I have in the refrigerator in my omelet. So
You're a meatitarian, are you?
yes, red-blooded
I-
American meatitarian, Tim.
May I ask a ridiculous question of you, Chris, because I too am an omelette fan. Are you an omelette every morning?
No, I'm not.
No.
I don't have time. I have 3 kids. I'm lucky to eat food before I get out of the house or come back to my office,
breakfast?
I should say. Yeah, right. Exactly.
I'm I've got a couple of friends who are into health and nutrition, some medical friends and all that, and that revolution about the whole that eggs are no longer frowned upon as bad cholesterol contributors. Because I eat a 2-egg omelette for breakfast every day with protein in it, with nothing else, a high fatty protein based breakfast. And I said that to another friend of mine the other day, and they were like, "Every day, really? Every day? Yeah, every day."
Eric, the way I see it, something's going to get you at some point. So just enjoy what you want.
Exactly. Good to have you with us today.
I'm
Thanks,
glad
Chris.
to be here, guys. And Brentney.
Yeah. So we just did introductions. I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself if you'd like.
Oh, I missed out on introductions. That's disappointing. So I'm Chris Nichols. I live in Nashville, Tennessee. I work in the talent acquisition and attraction and retention space. My role is to help organizations find solutions to what is currently the biggest problem and challenge that they have across their organization. And it's the last 2 years for the world of human resources has been honestly their golden age from the beginning stages of the COVID-19 crisis. And they were now being looked upon for answers at that time. And throughout the last 2 years, the problems have continued to center around human resources. And I say that really as 2 words, not as one, because people and talent are synonymous. And I think it's important that we remove the idea that we look at people as a commodity and as we look at them for what they are. They have emotions and feelings and options. Commodities don't really have a lot of options, but people do. And that's new for a lot of organizations and a lot of leaders who really came up during a time period. If you look at the majority of senior leadership in organizations, the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, they didn't have to worry so much about a global economy and what that meant for their people. It meant a lot of great things for revenue creating opportunities, but when it came to people and what that meant, they were still very localized. And so that's the biggest challenge that organizations are facing today is how do we retain the talent that we have, find new talent, and what does that look like when we're competing against not those in our backyard, but those that are across the world. Here in the States, for the first time, we have software companies that are throughout the Midwest and the East Coast competing against San Francisco-based companies, and they're having a hard time because they're used to paying twice as much for that talent in San Francisco than they are in, say, Atlanta, Georgia. So that's a little bit about who I am, where I'm from, and what I do. I don't know what the rest of the introductions look like, but I hope I.
No, I just wanted to, on behalf of the team here, or 50% of the team, congratulate you on your styling today. Your look, you've just got it spot on.
I told Brentney I was super excited to join a team of bald guys in glasses. So,
well, it's funny you should say that because before we went live, we had a lovely surprise from Brentney. We might be about to get again.
Being different is good.
I didn't get the invite, guys. I've got one of those. I could have gone and got that.
Can anyone else just hear faint bits of like Moby in the distance?
Oh, no. It's like a really crap game of Guess Who.
Guess Who? All of them. Any one of them.
It's when Nick said I work with the one with glasses on.
Yeah, so Chris is also, excuse me, the host of the Talent Tide podcast. So I'm not sure if you can tell by the length of his introduction in comparison to ours, but he is very good at going into depth. We've had a lot of very lengthy conversations. Usually our conversations go twice as long as what we plan for them to. And a lot of it is around the future of work and kind of just like where we're headed in the digital space. And now there's kind of a third part that I was wanting to bring in this week, and that is employee experience. Like 90%, I think it was, like 90% of employers have listed that as one of their top priorities, improving employee experience in 2022. And I love that shift as a collective. I love that we are recognizing that, and like our view of workplace culture is kind of changing. But in my opinion, the problem is that like 90% of those companies were built on the foundation of processes and pre-pandemic thinking, which we talk about the pre-pandemic thinking as it applies to digital transformation all the time. And to get where you want to go now, like the two just don't combine. So I'm kind of curious, like what your guys' thoughts are, or how you see that working. Even if these companies want to be a great place to work, if their operations and their culture don't support that, then are they just paying lip service to employee experience? Is this something that we're just going to hear as kind of trendy for the next year. What do you guys think?
Yes.
I think one of the challenges is if you survey 1,000 of your employees as to what a great workplace environment will look like, you'll get 1,200 different responses. So it's hard to custom tailor your company's solution to meet what everyone's expecting.
So therefore, should we have our company solution, or should it be, as we're moving forward, we discussed this concept before. It's actually linked into the piece of content that I brought today.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Are we going to move to a position where the winners in all of this, when we think about where we are today and think about the future and think about what flexibility already means and think about various improvements that have happened in the last 20 years, if we shoot forward another 20 years, are we going to get to a point where it's those that have come up with really independent, individual work sort of almost like life flexibility programs that are tuned to individuals, not to this is what we do at this company and you can fit into it if you want? Is that going to happen where we've got individual packages designed specifically around your wants and needs as an individual in order to attract you to come and work at our company? Not that we're a super flexible company and you can do some cool things.
I think the playbook got ripped up, didn't it, through the last 2 years? And so we have a whole bunch of leadership who are pushing around trying to find out what it is that they need to offer. And of course, the obvious thing to do is you try and find a playbook. So it's best practice and you implement exactly the same as everybody else. But as we know, implementing the same as everybody else doesn't give you a competitive advantage. So I think at the moment the whole thing's up in the air and people don't know what to implement.
I mean, Brentney, you said about paying lip service to this, and I think that the more I think about this, the more I think that organisations say they want employee experience, they want to improve employee experience. They say they want to recruit the best people and they're going to provide them with the most flexible packages and working environment that they possibly can. And they take on board things like employees that do have to go into the office. They want nice, comfortable breakout areas, and they want boutique coffee bars, and they want all of this stuff, which is a lifestyle decisions and changes that the organisation has to make. And I think the organisation is, in my experience, very up for that at a theoretical level, until they realise that that's then space that costs money, that isn't yielding a revenue for the organisation. And I think that we've got a polarisation happening where existing organisations that have a long history, they have old people running them. I don't mean old people, but people that have been in the workforce for 20, 30, 40 years running them, that have worked their way up within that kind of corporate structure. They have a very set belief system on how this sort of stuff works. And those organisations will find it extremely difficult to change. And then you've got a whole host of startups, and some of them are now startups that have been going for 20 years, but startups where it's all about making the people feel that they're part of a family. And obviously they get value from that because people commit so much more and are in love with it. So I do think that there's this split happening. And I think we're going to see lots of big companies fail because they simply cannot transform to make the workforce that they need want to come and work for them. And young, funky startups that have a real purpose and a mission and are changing the world will find it very easy.
And a slide that takes you from level 1 to the ground floor with beanbags.
Indeed.
I mean, part of what you're talking about there, Adam, it for me is really interesting because you've got these layers of management. You've got people on a kind of conveyor belt as they kind of get promoted, and there comes a point where it's like turkeys voting for Christmas, because you've had people who've been brought up in a particular culture and a particular way, and they have seen that certain values or behaviors equate to success in that organization. And therefore they've groomed themselves and they have prepared themselves to go on that conveyor belt. And then suddenly for that group, which are 1 or 2 layers below the top layer, suddenly to say, all those things that you worked on for the last 20 or 30 years, it's rubbish because we're not going to do that anymore. there's quite kind of traumatic impact for quite a high number of middle to senior managers, and for them to go through that kind of change process and to think differently and to think, okay, well, actually, I have to put the long-term interests of my business at the forefront rather than my own personal interests. It's an easy thing to say, but I think obviously much harder for it actually people to do it and make it happen.
I think there's a lot
I
of.
hope this is being recorded, Brentney. I want to come back to listen to all of these thoughts over again. And sorry for speaking over you. There's so much to unpack here, but the best thing that I've heard so far is that none of you have actually mentioned pay, which I think is fantastic. Because the first thing that companies always do whenever they're having a problem with retention or employee engagement is say, well, it's a pay problem. We're losing people because of pay, right? And so yes, LinkedIn, their news feed published an article that millennials want perks over pay. And I as a millennial myself, I completely responded to that because I'll be honest, what good is their pay if I never have time to do anything with it? We live in such an environment now where I think millennials value their freedom and their opportunities to go do things. I think so many millennials grew up in a time period whenever they were told that they had to go do all of these things like incur debt to get college educations, and that in order to be anything, you had to be X, Y, and Z. And the reality of that is that we have now learned that what our parents thought was going to be successful for us is not actually the case. And we saw what they had to go through. I saw my dad as a truck driver. He could only be home a couple of nights a week, right? Like he couldn't be at my athletic events. He couldn't be at my school events. And so I think as millennials enter parenthood as well, we're seeing a shift. They want to be with their families. They want to be around their kids. Another example, I think an organization that we all know as one of the largest organizations in the world, we assume that they have a great workplace culture and that they're flexible. But earlier this week, I asked a question on LinkedIn. I did a poll question because what better way to get engagement on LinkedIn than a poll question, right? But it was interesting to me because I thought that more domestic organizations were going to train conflict. And I asked how or if you thought it was going to affect your business. And it was a complete 50-50 poll. There was no rhyme or reason as to why anyone chose either side. There were healthcare companies that said yes, and then there were healthcare companies that said no, which I thought was fascinating as well. But one individual said no. I said he worked for a very large organization, everything from A to Z. He had let me know that he had just left that organization because they pushed him to nights. This is a guy that's probably not even a millennial. Good job with nothing else in line, because for 4 months they asked him to work nights and he just said, I'm not doing that. And I don't really care that I don't have anything in line because I want to be with my family and I don't like working nights and I'll figure it out from here. He now wants to work from home and he took a demotion, honestly. Operations manager. Now he's like, I'll be an engineering guy again if I can work from home.
Yeah, it's the way that it's amazing how things have changed. Sorry, Will.
Yeah, I had a kind of interesting experience this week because I volunteered to do some mentoring with an academy, an association which I belong to, support mentoring what a year 12 in the UK or English system. So it's the year before you do your final exams at college, secondary school, and we were getting paired up, mentors and mentees. So we kind of almost did a kind of speed dating thing where you spoke with 9 of the students, and then afterwards you get paired up to mentor one of them. And speaking with all of these students, I mean, first of all, they're pretty switched on. Certainly a lot more switched on when I was their age. And I think the other thing that kind of really stuck out to me was rather than people talking instantly about university. And to come to Chris's point about, the amount of debt that students now leave university with, most of this group were all kind of looking at a twin track, which is either to do university or to do apprenticeships. So they were kind of a lot more open-minded about where they wanted to go and what they wanted to do. They were also looking at a lot of them had outside jobs already, and they were very open-minded in terms of, we're going to do these, we're going to experience different things, and then that's going to help us and inform us in some of our choices that we've got to come with. So this is even kind of a younger age than the millennials, and I think you've got that shift coming, as you talked about, where people coming into the workforce, they're not just interested in getting on that conveyor belt and following the same life that they've seen their parents and probably their grandparents go through.
Yes, it's something you've just touched on there, Will. There's a really good TED talk, one of my favourites, in fact, by Sir Ken Robinson.
I'm gonna quiet Nick.
Creativity.
You'll have to shout. You're very quiet, yeah.
Yeah, you need to shout now.
Okay. 1 second, let me just check my mic settings. So it's called The Schools Kill Creativity.
People out here.
And it's, let me just turn this up. Is that better?
Ooh,
yeah.
Lovely.
Yep, there we go. Good stuff. He basically says that we're training kids for jobs that don't even exist yet. And I remember going to see a TED talk last year or a few years ago, and there was a guy there that used to work in the music industry, and he was saying that there's a shift happening in university education that's similar to what happened in the music industry in the 90s with the advent of streaming. The value of university courses are going right down and the price is going up. There's going to be an explosion at some point. So yes, it's really, really interesting. I can hear myself through my headphones, which probably explains why I'm stuttering a little bit.
I mentioned it recently before. A friend of mine in his 40s decided he would go and do an MBA at night school, and he went along for the induction evening, which was to see whether he'd like the thing. And he sat there and he felt a bit uncomfortable because it was all full of cool young hipsters, and he
Like
sat
us,
there.
you mean?
Like you. It was just a room full of Adams, and they sat there, and the guy said, "So, anybody want to stand up and introduce themselves?" And this guy stood up and went, "Hi, my name's Jack. I'm 28. I run 2 tech startup companies. I sold my first company when I was 25, and I've been going on and just flipping organisations, and I'm now onto my 3rd tech startup." And he's like, Stuart went, "I'm in the wrong room. I'll
Bye."
Bye.
Stuart has left the building.
Stuart left the building because Stuart came from an environment where you leave school, you get an apprenticeship, or you go to university, or you go to college, and you get in a job, and you stay doing that job forever for different organisations, and maybe change once or twice along the way. And that was just the normal rhythm, because you get up, you go to your work, you come home, and you just keep doing that until you die or retire. So the whole fact that actually you can carve your own way through numerous commercial jungles and carve your own path nowadays with everything that you have available to you is just absolutely phenomenal, incredible.
Yeah. But also scary.
I don't know who mentioned it earlier, but like personalized work plans. I think maybe it was you, Tim, that were talking about personalized work plans. And we're already seeing that with high volume manufacturing and healthcare. Like those are the conversations that we're having with these companies. We're saying to them, the old way of thinking about how you bring people into your workplace and putting them all in a conveyor belt type system of saying, you work these 4 days for this many hours, et cetera, doesn't work anymore. And so we're telling them, you've got to be more flexible in what you offer to potential employees. If you want to maximize the talent that you have, especially if you are a localized organization, you're going to have to talk to them about what works for them. Because I always compare anything to those great Auto Trader commercials whenever they show all the cars in the world and it comes down to like the one. So many companies are looking for one particular thing, and they're going to have to be more open to looking for a broader subset of what works for them, because people are, and that's the difference. But where we've got to make the shift is how we go from and I'm actually interested in your feedback, this group, from this. Leaders that demand or choose control, right? Because if you ascend to leadership roles, you feel like, hey, this is my thing. I have say over this, not the people. So do you guys have any thoughts around how we get organizations to shift away from the power mindset that exists?
I don't even. So I'm gonna make a confession here. This used to be a very large persona within my character set, and it's now much smaller, and it's in a little box. But he still exists. He still lives today, and it's Victorian factory manager that lives within my persona. Right.
Victorian dad.
Victorian dad, Victorian factory
Morning,
manager with a pocket watch and a hand on a whistle, right? I know that he's in me, right? I know he's there. I have to fight him. I'm just confessing, right? All the way through when I used to lead small organizations. Everybody in this office at 8 o'clock, everybody leaves at 5. Why are you leaving at 1:45? So that was built into my corporate DNA, right? And I went to work for an organization once, much larger organization, and I had quite a senior role. And I was sitting chatting to one of my colleagues in the early days, and I said, right, we can go over that tomorrow. And she said, no, I can't. I'm sorry. I'm on a flexi day tomorrow. And I was like, what? I got a twitch and a bit of blood ran out my eye, like Le Chiffre in Casino Royale. I was like, a flexi day? What? She said, yeah, I've accrued up some hours, so I'm taking tomorrow off. And I was like, but we've got plans to make and stuff to do. And she went, which we'll do on Monday. Bye. And left. This whole flexi, I had to sit with the director of HR fanning me with ice water on my forehead, explaining that the staff will come and go as they please. It's their call, not yours. And I'm like, but we've got projects to deliver. We've got projects to deliver. And they're like, yeah, and they'll be delivered because they're actually doing the same amount. To get me used to that was a long exposure, and getting to see the fact that people used to come in with a little bit more of a skip in their stride, looked forward to those flexi days, and actually then getting behind that as a leader and saying, right, how do we do more of this kind of stuff? Because you guys, we're still delivering. We're delivering well, and there seems to be a little air of, there's smiles, and there's happiness, and there's high fives, and there's laughter and banter in this team. And maybe a bit of that is to do with...
And it's your job, Eric, to get rid of that.
You're going to beat it out of them.
Squeeze it.
I actually was taken into a corner by my boss, who said, that question you just put to HR, the question, I know you're just in the door here, but when you said, is there any chance we can take my team, I'm just spitballing here, any chance we can take my team out of the flexi scheme? And they were like, no, time out, Eric, come here.
We can take one person out.
Exactly. Just to let you know, I'm just being honest. I know that person, that old Victorian factory manager, lives within me, but it's much smaller, and he doesn't scream quite so loudly as he used to. But he's still there, and he's in a lot of peers and a lot of colleagues of mine. He's still that little person. He still lives there.
It's easy
I'm just going to restart my stream, guys, to get rid of this echo problem.
Yeah,
I'll
sure.
be back in 2 seconds.
Problem.
No problem.
No, it's very easy to do. I'm starting to have more empathy for the older generation, us coming in, and I see this happening now with myself as they're coming up into the workforce, and I'm seeing different mannerisms and things, and I catch myself. This was probably last week. I don't know, I went to Tanner or something, and I was like, okay, thank you. And the girl goes, yep, see you later. And I was like, that was kind of weird. That was a weird way to send someone off. And then I stopped by another store, and I was like, okay, thank you. When she gave me my card back, I was like, okay, thank you. I say thank you anyway, but she goes, yep. And I was like, do we not? I started feeling myself judging them by the way they were. And I was driving home. I was like, I'm turning into my mother. I'm sitting there. I'm like,
excuse me, young man, where are your manners?
But Brentney, when you said, because these older people, every one of us just went, oh God.
I didn't. No, I was.
every one of us rubbed a sore joint.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think there's something to be said about that, because since I've been in the workforce, it's always been why can't you guys see the thing or see it the way that we see it, and this is the way modern work needs to be, this and that. And like there's plenty of studies and research that shows every generation basically has a group of qualities or characteristics based on like the trauma from the previous generation, you know? And so it's just like, you need to understand that everyone is only acting based on like the way they've been brought up and what they've been exposed to in their experiences. So it's going to take a different type of leadership, I think, to lead this new generation. But the main, like, how do we get there? Well, I think we'll figure it out in 5, 10 years. But like, what's going to happen before then? Like all this tension and companies thinking they're approaching it one way, but like not hiring leadership that can look at, okay, what is our day-to-day operations and what does our culture actually support? Is it like employee experience?
The best companies have a culture of evolution, right? Like constantly evolving. And I think that's the key function, right? Like where we are in 5 to 10 years, who knows? But the key is like keeping enough flexibility in your business processes to ensure that you're meeting the needs of the people where they're at right now. Because if we're saying everybody has to be like this today, probably not. And so flexibility within business is something that is this guy.
Thanks, Nick.
Nick,
Sorry.
You
Should have muted my mic.
Here.
It's my little pattern interrupt. Sorry.
Can you go out of the room?
Everybody suddenly wants to go to a lavatory.
I should have muted my mic. I'm really sorry about that.
Listen to this back. It's hilarious. It's hilarious.
Go on, Chris. You were rudely interrupted.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
No, that's gonna have to like that needs to be like a gift or something at some point in the future. An audio.
I think he's taking the piss.
That like.
That was something from Seinfeld.
It was the loudest. It was honestly like we had a microphone in a urinal in a. I suddenly need to go to the loo, says Richard.
Don't start me laughing because I won't stop. So,
Haley says throw him out. I've got an idea for a skit.
Business strategy, flexibility. That's it.
I've got an idea for a funny skit, but it actually might not be as funny or as far from the truth as I'm thinking. Where there's a person sitting in a room, and there's a bunch of corporate people standing outside in a queue, waiting to go in and be interviewed. As to, why should I work for your organisation? Are we anywhere close to that?
People are.
Brentney still hasn't got over the water.
I am. I'm not okay.
It's okay to be not okay, Brentney. Don't worry.
Do it again, Nick.
Dear.
I'm going to try and take this back on track.
Yes.
There's a couple of
William,
things
rescue.
a couple of things to pick here, which links into the piece that I was going to share this week, because I went on a really great webinar, which was organised by Brett Kohler, the publishing house, and they ran a webinar which was titled "We're Humans, Not Resources." I had 3 really great speakers on there talking about different elements about the Great Resignation and how organisations are changing. And they had one who was an author, who was April Rena, I think her name is pronounced. And she's written a book on flux, which is, how organizations are changing, how individuals in organizations are changing. And she was talking very much about this idea of people viewing themselves as having a kind of portfolio career.
Nice.
So they've got these kind of different elements. And I just love the way she kind of explained it, because, I think there is a mindset that organizations need to change. And at the same time, we need to encourage employees to think about themselves differently, about the skill sets that they're bringing. And so she talked about a portfolio, and she said, when you look at portfolios, if you're an artist and you have a portfolio, generally this portfolio is something of your best works, your collective best works. So, how can you think about bringing all of those different skill sets, competencies and elements and really kind of showing those off? And then she did a kind of juxtaposition against a financial portfolio, where obviously if you have a financial portfolio, what you're trying to do there is mitigate a bit of risk. So you will have some products which may be a bit more risky, but then you'll have some which are a little bit safer. And so this kind of image of the portfolio, but within those kind of boundaries, if you like, really kind of stuck out to me. And I thought that was kind of really rich way for people to start to think about the skill set that they're bringing to work with them.
Yeah, very much so, no doubt. It's a two-way street, or a multi-way street.
Is there a recording of that, Will? Can people go back and rewatch?
I've got sent a recording of it because I participated, or I was there. I'll see if I can forward that to you, or if not, I'll see if I can speak to the organizer and somehow get a recording to you.
Okay.
Brilliant.
I'll have a jelly bean now.
I think I'm banned from next week's show by the time.
It'd be really funny if you just picked up a trombone and just blasted it right into your mic. Sorry, guys. I was just clearing my trombone there.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so I think it's the applicant tracking systems and the way that people are getting their foot in to even be considered. Well, of course, we know it's more about like networking and relationship building, and we're getting away from resumes, thankfully. But I think it's employees making the decision, or the collective making the decision to showcase what they truly are good at. And like, to your point, bring their skills and build it ahead of time, as opposed to building it in response to the job description, because they know if they don't use all of those words and speak to all of those points, they won't even get a chance. They won't even be considered. So it's kind of
you look at how much richer
That's a good point.
A person's profile is compared to a resume or a CV. How much more a three-dimensional picture you can build up from someone based on their personal brand compared to I still can't believe in this day and age if they've done it properly, correct. But I still can't believe that we're using resumes and CVs it baffles me. But
it's a volume.
Nick, the only thing worse than somebody's CV is their LinkedIn profile. 95% of the people don't know how to build a LinkedIn profile with any value at all.
That's a really good point, isn't it? Because, you know, the LinkedIn profile not only talks about where you've been and what you've done, it demonstrates who you are. I'm a really sociable person, says the person with 75 connections that never posts anything or engages with anybody. Well, clearly you're not that sociable a person, evidenced by your behavior. So it is an incredibly powerful tool from that perspective.
I always love it when you've got people who are connecting with you to sell you LinkedIn training courses, and you see they've done 3 posts in the last 6 months. So
with 2 connections.
I love it particularly when somebody is connecting with me to sell me a LinkedIn training course. You haven't really spent much time on my profile, have you?
So sorry, Brentney, I don't want to distract, but Adam got a LinkedIn connection request today that says, "I'll sell anything."
What was it? I'm selling anything.
I'm selling anything.
And I think he deliberately or mistakenly missed out. I'm not selling anything. I'm selling anything.
Enterprising young person.
I don't know if you guys, so there's a couple of things to unpack here. I love where you guys are talking about LinkedIn profiles and the value of them. However, I believe that we are so far away from getting enough people to understand the value of their LinkedIn profile for it to even be a worthwhile conversation for people outside of sales, marketing, and recruiting. Honestly, those are the roles where I see a lot of value in LinkedIn profiles and using that. So like for me, if you're in one of those 3 roles and you're not using LinkedIn effectively, I would automatically cast you out. Like either you, especially if you're inexperienced, we can teach you what to do there, right? But if you're not using LinkedIn and you're a mid-career professional, I have major concerns about what you can actually do. Right. Like what you know about the industry.
That's a pretty important statement. I would cast you out right away. You're out of the selection process. You've qualified out.
Yeah, like if I go to your LinkedIn profile and you say that you're a marketing or sales professional and you're not doing, like, what are you doing then?
Like, duh.
Right?
I think we will get to the point where someone's follower count is a relevant touch point for how employable they are within 3 to 4 years.
That's true. I hate that though, because I do feel that follower counts are
Well, they can be skewed.
I don't like,
but
they can be skewed, right? Like the content of the quality of your content to me is far more important than the size of your following, because you may or may not have had the ability to control, but I can control my content and the quality of it, right? So, you know, we've all had algorithm posts at some point for much greater reach and followers. I have a friend of mine in the recruiting industry. He had one post about Zoom meetings in the COVID crisis, and he gained 8,000 new followers on LinkedIn and 10,000 on Twitter just from one post. And it's like, well, one viral post got him X amount, that now you go look at his profile and you see, oh, he has 15,000. Well, 10,000 of those were from one post, right? The viral moment. So I think that that's why I like to avoid that and look truly inside at what's going there. The challenge is, how do we get to know people in general, right? Like, we want to hire people based upon, everyone wants to hire on technical skills, yet the true value of what somebody brings to the table is their soft skills. And we think that in a 30-minute to an hour phone screen or interview that we're going to be able to understand their soft skill and what they're capable of when it comes to leading people, influencing people, etc. The reality is, we can teach so many technical skills. You probably can't teach me calculus in the next 3 months because I don't want to. But hey, if I wanted to, I probably could get back to being pretty decent at calculus, like I was when I was a junior in high school. But I don't have any need or desire to do that today. So how do we get better at hiring for soft skills? I think that is the key piece when it comes to creating a great work environment.
Yeah, here.
Eric, you had one from
I do.
Blockchain and digital CD. Brentney, 1 second. So Haley Hudson, blockchain. So this is actually something that job.com is doing, which is my parent company. And the challenge, though, is that we're not anywhere close to where we need to be for blockchain to be an effective tool yet in any industry. It's still slow, but that's where job.com is headed. That's what we're investing in our patent building. We have 147 patents that we're going to be putting through the U.S. Patent Office this year. There's 47 pending, and much of it is about blockchain and the future of that. But AI and blockchain are still not they're not there yet.
147 patents.
Yeah.
Holy moly! Wow.
The crazy thing is that we'll be second to Workday in the U.S. when it comes to HR tech patents. The wild thing about the patent industry in the U.S. With relation to the human resources industry is that it's basically the wild, wild west. Indeed has 4 patents, for example. There's a lot of patents, a lot of technology that we're using in the space that nobody has patented. So I'm telling you secretly that we're patenting those now.
Cool.
But blockchain is coming, but I have a hard time seeing it in the immediate future, right? 5-10 years. I just don't think that we're there. We can't even get aligned on LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn's been around for the last 12 years and everybody knows what that is. Blockchain is extremely complicated. And when we think about, the average Joe wanting to upload their resume into something called blockchain, that's a little who has access to my information? I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty there with technology and how we do things. At the end of the day, it's about people and the relationships that you have with people, because more often than not, when you get hired for a job, it's because you know somebody anyway.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you want me to put up my my little post for today? Is that okay, Brentney?
Yeah.
Tim, you have no say in this. You have no say in this. You're not the editor today.
Sorry, for a second I went back to.
I've got a piece of content here. If you could bring that up, Tim. If you could pull that over.
Oh, now he has to say.
Now he has to say. So this is from a friend of the show, Danielle Guzman, head of social media for Mercer. So for anyone who follows Danielle, and she's been on the show before, you'll know that she is a fantastic sort of trailblazer for concepts around the future of work. So she put out this post the other day which has a fairly long screed of text attached to it, which you can't read, which I'm going to read out for you. The title is what does flexible working mean to you? And I like this because she pulls the thread a little bit further than most. Flexible working. The word flexibility has taken over the way we speak about work, says Danielle. It sparked many new ways to think about how we continue to integrate work and life. Employees want and deserve flexibility. Leading employers are focused on understanding and enabling the best circumstances for workers to thrive in, rather than enforcing rigid timelines or environments. Managers have an opportunity to equip and empower their people. All roles can have flexibility. So what does it mean to you? And then she gives this long list of things that actually, many things that the Victorian factory manager would not have thought about. Working a 4-day work week if you want to. Taking meetings while you're at the dentist with your child being acceptable. An opportunity to choose one's shifts. Flexible arrival and departure times. Part-time working from home. Flexible scheduling. A feeling of personal control over your schedule and work commitments and environments. Choosing to have your video on and off is okay. Opportunity for sabbaticals or career breaks. Weekend swap days. Flexibility in how you complete your work. Freedom with an exclamation point. Flexible treatment of employees. Wear what you want. Work from home. Hybrid or anywhere. Employee autonomy. And she finishes by saying, define it, communicate it, own it. How do you define your flexibility at work? And then she ends with the opening slide, which is her saying, this is me on a flexible workday, enjoying having a bit of fun in the park. So the reason I put this part up is because I went back and I said, I love this, but the flexibility thing is in my mind causing problems because it's too loosey-goosey. Hey, we're flexible here. You can do what you want. And I went back to that. I think flexibility is a start, but we need to move to a designed-in lifestyle pairing, which properly assesses an individual's needs and wants and desires with the role that's being advertised. And we got into a nice bit of debate about that because if Danielle is anything on this platform, she is a brilliant debater and communicator. But I thought that was a lovely way for a leader. I mean, she's the head of social media, right? So she's in there wading into this whole world about creating new working environments where people feel that they owned that decision to do that. And that's pretty cool, I think. Well done, Danielle.
The only thing I disagree with is having your video off during a conference call, because that's tough, man. I did a call the other day when everybody had their video off, and I felt like I was in a weird, echo chamber, right? Like a bunch of black screens around me, and I don't know. I don't even know how to do a phone call, I guess, anymore. But I think that if you're going to be remote and flexible, I think there is something valuable to having people's faces and interacting with them in real time. I think we get more accomplished that way. I can remember when we used to do phone conference calls, those were terrible. People's facial things of that nature. But other than that, I agree with a lot.
You know who this is that's talking? This is your little
say.
This is your little Victorian factory manager talking.
It's my little Victorian guy.
Get them to put their video on.
The key is to, she says it's a choice. It's your choice to have it on or not. So if you build a very employee a culture where employees are engaged and they're coming to this meeting and it's a purpose and there's two-way conversation and they're excited to catch up, that just goes back a couple steps further. And then if you have one or two employees who they're sick, they're somewhere that they don't want someone to see in the background, or they didn't want to fix their hair or whatever, then they don't have to be on for the day. But it's a standard. Or people want to be engaged. So it's not the norm where because I agree, logging on when everybody else, you're I usually just minimize myself and I treat it as if it's a phone call at that point. Yeah, Danielle's great. She was the inspiration for this topic.
This whole thing, yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Okay, who's next? Tim or Adam?
Who's going next?
I'm happy to share.
Yeah?
Sure.
You're going to share your screen, Rob?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Nick, do you want to pour a glass of water and get it out of the way?
Haley's just DM'd me saying, do I want to do that? So no.
So earlier this week, I stumbled upon what at first glance I thought was an article. It was entitled "The Future of Work: What Have We Learned During the Pandemic?" Turns out what I came across was a press release. It was a press release for an academic paper, and it sort of sent me down a rabbit hole. But coming back to the press release, the paper analyzed 186 other research articles from 2020 through 2021 in an attempt to map out the predominant themes of remote work trends. I thought that was perfect for this week. It touched on things like remote work and office, family, and of course, COVID. But it turns out the three predominant themes identified were job satisfaction, flexible work, and stress. That sparked two thoughts for me. First, the issues around the quote, end quote, future of work seem to be no different from the issues of present work or the history of work. And second, if the issues really do center around job satisfaction, flexible work, and stress, maybe we should stop calling it the Great Resignation and start referring to it as the era of ennui. Mr. DJ, please cue up Todd Rundgren's Bang the Drum All Day.
As you were talking about that, Rob, I was thinking to myself, further to Eric's comment about Danielle writing, it's okay to have your video on or off, and linking that back to stress. I think that one of the challenges that we face is that in a more human, touchy-feely, thoughtful working environment, we focus on your needs, or you focus on your needs as an individual. So my needs as an individual are, I'm stressed when the video's on, so I'm going to turn the video off. And Tim feels the same way, and Eric feels the same way, and Rob feels the same way, and Chris feels the same way, and then eventually that just leaves Brentney, who is now stressed because we've all turned the videos off. And I think that one of the things about the old structure, Eric and his Victorian thing, is that everybody's very clear about what thanks, Eric. Everybody's very clear about what their obligations are as well as their rights. And I think that there is a line to be walked here, isn't there? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a really flexible working environment. I'm going to work at the times that suit me because it's contingent on my employer to set me up in that manner. But that ultimately can have an impact on my ability to engage with other people that work in the company and with clients as well. So there does need to be a degree of balance in this, doesn't there?
100%.
Absolutely.
Let's just take a moment to rise to the challenge put to us by our friend and to Tom. That just guarantees that we'll all lose our YouTube broadcast for this particular broadcast. Well done.
Yes. Okay. That was great, Rob.
I think there's a link in there as well with what Adam was just saying, you know, because I think Chris talked about earlier about the kind of concepts of leadership and, you know, what leadership is. And to hark back to what Eric was saying, is it the Victorian factory owner who's out there kind of, you know, whipping the workers and driving people forward like that. And it's an understanding of leadership that actually, I think leadership, the real elements of leadership is actually knowing when to let go and when to hand on responsibility and encourage others to take the lead. Because, you know, you can't always be at the front taking the lead. You know, leadership sometimes is about going back and seeing what's happening with the guys at the rear who are kind of stragglers and need some help and support and kind of bringing people forward. And I think, you know, then taking it on to how you react in certain moments. I think the key part to that is around the emotional intelligence that people are bringing into work. And for me, already, you know, that's what a lot of research and a lot of commentators have said about leadership. You know, emotional intelligence is really one of the key elements to it, of recognizing those moments. And I think if we look at the trauma that's gone on in the last kind of couple of years, it's actually for organizations, and especially the leaders in those organizations, to stand back and to try to take an honest look at actually what's going on. What type of organization have we got at the moment? What is our market looking like? What's our external environment looking like? What are our key stakeholders expecting? And then having that honest conversation to say, those things that we did in the past, you know what, they're very close to our hearts, we're very comfortable with them, but we're going to have to change those in the future in order to survive and thrive.
You kind of, when you were talking about how different the group was that you were mentoring, how just like their thoughts are so different and they're seeing things differently. Like in the past, it made sense to lead by proximity, and to people were coming in just to collect a paycheck. And they were just like working these kind of mundane jobs that didn't really have any connection or meaning to them. But people are different now, and they want to buy into their organization. And when you have that, they're taking ownership in it, and they're like very self-motivated. You can lead differently. You can lead with trust. You can allow them to like accomplish things on their own. They're not only doing that for you, they're doing it for themselves. So I agree. Like leadership is just different now.
Give them their purpose, you know, start with the why, all the stuff that Simon Sinek talked about. Again, research is saying people want a reason to kind of turn up to work. We've all been in those jobs when the alarm goes off at 6:30 in the morning. It's in the middle of the winter, it's dark outside, and then we kind of, as we kind of come to, we think, oh hell, you know, this is what I've got to do when I arrive at work. You know, it's not terribly motivating for us, and we are just going in and like the Victorian sweatshops, we're clocking in physically, but mentally, you know, we're not
Clocking
there.
out.
Yeah, we haven't even clocked in.
But Will, I've had those jobs where I've raced to get in. I was so excited for that day. And if I'm being completely honest, it had nothing to do with my employer or what they were asking of me. What I'd done there was the same thing I had done so many other places. That started within. That's more of that emotional intelligence that you're talking about.
It's got to be both ways. I mean, organizations can only go so far in terms of what they can do to offer. You know, some of it then has to come from within you, and sometimes we can be in pretty mundane jobs, but if we're arriving with the mindset of actually, I'm going to reframe this, I'm going to look at this differently, there are still things that I can get out of this which are going to help me for my long-term career, and actually that's what I'm going to focus on rather than all these other kind of more boring aspects. Then actually I'm going to see that there's going to be a gain out of this, and that can be enough to motivate and enthuse me in that role.
So here's a thought.
So I know we're short on time.
Go ahead, Chris.
I was just going to say, so Brentney and I have had a conversation about this a lot, and that we had realizations. So we're both the same age, and realizations time in life. Everybody was like us, as far as how we approach work and things of that nature. And we've talked about personality things, and Brentney even mentioned this in her social post yesterday. But if you just look at like Enneagram, there's 9 different Enneagram types. There are 16 different Myers-Briggs scores that you can have, right? Like we're all different. And so, Rob, like your approach to work might be one way, but everyone else in your organization might have a different approach to work. And that was hard for me to come to that realization, right? Like not everybody is going to be psycho when it comes to the amount of work that they want to produce. And like how do we find, like how do we have the empathy and understanding of other people to realize that we have different, even if we can't see them.
What I've realized is the Victorian me and the parent me aren't very different. It's no first. No, because I know better. And when I've stepped out of the way and started with yes, it actually ends up being a much different experience. So rather than worrying about, well, as an organization, what do we need to do to foster better work environment? Maybe just step out of the way a little bit. Maybe temper some of those no's. Even a non-answer is better than a no.
having just read Adam Grant's Think Again, that's had quite a big effect on me in terms of how I challenge myself and how I think about things, and be prepared to take that different perspective. And I wouldn't say it's necessarily, again, binary with yes or no. It's maybe.
Yeah,
What was the book again, Will? Sorry.
I'll post it in the link. It's Adam Grant's Think Again.
Okay.
we are at time. Does anybody have any like final thoughts? I don't want to cut anybody off last minute. Or this was great.
Thank you,
I-
Brentney.
Yes,
Thanks
thank you,
for
Brentney.
having
me.
Thank you, Chris.
And thank you, Chris, for coming
Awesome
along.
job, Brenny.
It's been
Chris.
And I humbly apologise for the water. That was
For the
very,
bathroom
very
break.
rude
Can
of
you
I'd just
me.
like to
for that bathroom
get-
break?
Given the fact that Brentney paid tribute to us, I'm going to pay tribute to Brentney at the end.
Next week I'll wear wigs or bald caps. A role reversal.
You look
Okay.
pretty good with hair, Eric.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you. That's
Shiny.
been a long time since anyone said that.
Hey, thank you all for having me. Thank you, Brentney. This was actually a lot of fun.
Thanks, Chris.
I
Really
wasn't sure what I was
appreciate the
gonna
time.
jump into, but I really enjoyed it.
Awesome.
Nice to meet you, Chris.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care, everyone.